Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Detroit-based veteran jazz drummer and bandleader Joe Syrian. We caught up with him about his new 2025 CD, Secret Message, done with the Motor City Octet, along with delving into his life and the music. The Motor City Jazz Octet is a highly regarded jazz band based in the Detroit metropolitan area. They can be found performing in the best clubs, theaters, and concert venues in the area. We cover this new album, the band, his esteemed life and music, and so much more. Dig this interview. It's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the new album, Secret Message.
I'm glad to be here. I hope I can add some interest to your program.
Oh, I have no doubt you will. So let's before we get into the Motor City Octet, the new album, your life and music, let's begin with, 4.5 years ago, this pandemic really threw musicians, all of us into a tailspin. There was a lot of things that we had to do to survive. But we still probably feel the reverberations of living through that momentous time. How much of living through that is still affecting you now as a musician and in everything you do as an educator?
Well, that was an especially hard time for me. Musically speaking, I'm the kind of person I'm kind of self-motivated, so having so much spare time was really kind of enjoyable to me. Gave me time to practice and to think, and I was having some charts written and that kind of thing. On the bad side, I lost a stepson during that time, so it made it. Obviously that was a big difficulty in my life and my family's life, my wife and I. So we got through that, and otherwise, I taught online a little bit, and got through it. It certainly, it still has changed the world. Everything is different. The nightclub scene is different. The restaurant scene is different. So it's had a dramatic effect, and the effect, is still lingering.
So talk to me a little bit about the Motor City Octet, which it is a part of the new album, Secret Message. Give me an idea of how this band came about and kind of a little bit of the history.
We've got a long, long history. The group was started by a dear friend named Ernie Matchelat. And he started it, I'm not even sure when, maybe as far back as the 70s, just really more as a rehearsal band, just to play a lot of charts and, just to keep our reading up, I wasn't part of it then. But anyway, Ernie started the group, and so it's been around Detroit for a long, long time. Then I came into the group just kind of as a sideman first, a couple of times, just some rehearsals when the other drummer couldn't make it. And then somewhere in maybe 15 years ago, something like that, I came into the group and started becoming more of an active member and started working with Ernie as a co-leader. And I took it upon myself really to get more charts. There's no better joy to me than have a great chart and open it up to have all the guys sit down and play it for the first time. It's just thrilling to see the other guys enjoying it, and it's just a great thing. So anyway, then I started building up. I've got a huge library from early Dixieland all the way to present. Some of it, standard things from pre-written by from other groups that we got their music, and like I say, I've been myself pursuing different arrangers and trying to develop a little bit of my own concept of where the group has been going. So it's got a long history. We've had if you look at the website, you'll see there's been a lot of musicians that's come through the group. And one great thing about having a group that reads, having written parts, the whole band doesn't fall apart if one person can't make a gig, for example. We just plug another guy in. Now, of course, it has to be a good player, someone that can read, play solos and whatnot. An octet is a real personal kind of group. It's, to me, I like it a lot better than a big band. I like a big band, but every time you add a member to a group, although you're adding another sound, the group becomes a little less, what would be the word, maybe intimate, bigger. That's why, for example, a symphony orchestra has to have a conductor, because, to keep a lot of people all together, and you have to have a leader. Where in a small group like this, our ears lead us, and of course the written page leads us. So it's a real personal kind of thing. All of the parts are exposed. All the musicians are very, very exposed. There isn't a third trombone player or something playing some, insignificant harmony part. Nothing is really insignificant. I don't need to play down the part, but this octet is just all the essentials. We can have good musical arrangements and lots of time for open solos as well. So I just feel like I found my voice with these 8 guys.
So speaking of your voice, let's go back to the beginnings. Take me back to where you were born and raised, and how not only music, but more specifically jazz became your destiny.
Well, I still live actually in Dearborn, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. Was always involved in music. Started playing the trumpet in about 4th grade, and I loved that trumpet so much. The way our school system was set up, you had to, in order to take trumpet in school, you had to leave your ongoing classroom for a half hour to go to somewhere else, to do music, or leave for an hour, whatever it was. And my teacher, I loved the trumpet. I just worshiped that thing. And the teacher told my mother that I think really I had good grades, but anyway, she told my mother that my grades were falling because I was in love with this trumpet. So they made me stop playing trumpet. And that was in 4th grade. And then in 6th grade, I came back. By that time, I had a friend that was a couple years older that lived in the neighborhood. He played drums. So then I came back as a drummer. And I just pursued music throughout elementary school and played in all of the bands, marching band and jazz band. We called it stage band then. And went into high school and same thing, played all the musicals and just was very, very involved. Actually, I was an athlete as well, but I was very involved in music and that was always my main concern. After college, I went to Eastern Michigan for a year and then transferred to University of North Texas, which was called North Texas State then. They have a great jazz program that you probably have heard of. More than a jazz program, they have, at that time, it was the 2nd largest school of music in the country. I'm not sure how it rates now, but they have just a really great music program with great ensembles of all different types. And so that really opened up my ears to more and more to jazz. But I started going back a little bit. You asked me about how I got started into jazz. As a drummer, I think probably Joe Murillo, just learning drums and the challenges of drums and trying to, get better. And I think Joe Murillo somehow showed up in my life as a drummer, and I started following him and what he was doing on the drum set, which of course led me to Dave Brubeck and then into the jazz world. I remember Mercy, Mercy, Mercy was a tune that I just loved and discovered, I'm not really sure exactly when, but in high school. But anyway, so my ears kind of led me to, or my interest in drumming and interest in good drumming, good challenging drumming led me to follow the jazz people, Buddy Rich, of course, and so on, delving into jazz. I really didn't have, I wish I did, but I never really had a mentor. I never really had a teacher or someone that took me under their wing. I pretty much always worked on my own. I was always really shy and just did things on my own, though. I sought out things and sought out music and read a lot. I've got pretty much all the jazz books. And that's pretty much how I started and really how I continued through life. I read a lot and I just kind of follow in my own way. Wasn't always a leader. I don't always make my living as a leader. It's a lot easier in music to just have somebody call you up and say, we got a gig at 7 o'clock this Friday. Show up with a tuxedo, and that kind of thing's a lot easier than going out and trying to talk bar owners and stuff into hiring you. So a lot of my work is still now. I just work for other people. It's a lot easier, but at the same time, I have that voice that I like, the octet. So I always come back to that.
So, what do you like the best about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day to do this work, to evolve, and to be the best version of you every day?
Well, mainly it's my music. It's just my interest in music, period. The first thing I do every day and always have is when I get up, is I ask myself, when am I going to practice today? I'm kind of a studious person and I enjoy practicing. I'm always amazed. I've always taught privately to some degree. And I'm always amazed at these people that say, oh, they love music, but they hate to practice. That doesn't make sense to me. If you love music, practicing is doing music. So that's the high point of my day, or the main thing. I've got myself, I guess, maybe hypnotized into it. But the first thing I think of every morning is, when am I going to practice? How am I going to squeeze it in? Because I do have another life. I have a good life of a lot of different activities and things. I'm not sure if I answered your question
Yeah,
or
you
not.
certainly did. Yeah, no, you certainly did. So, I'm curious at the end of the day, very simply put, why do you love jazz?
The freedom of it, uh, the personal expression of it, the way that it opens up. Again, I played in every kind of situation, from marching band to symphonic band and uh, symphonies and whatnot. But to stand there with a triangle and count 200 measures or something, and not to put that down, it's very difficult. 20 minutes into a symphonic piece, you have to ding this triangle right in the right spot, follow the conductor all through. That can be very difficult, but that doesn't interest me at all. A jazz player is a jazz drummer. You're almost always playing, and always a vital part of the music, a vital, spirit of the music. You're the one moving it, whether it's a ballad or whether it's a fast thing or whether it's a Latin thing. You're always just a big part of it. And I like being the expressive part of it, not necessarily as a soloist even, but just being a part of the whole. And like I say, as a drummer in a jazz situation, you almost always are. There's a few spots like on our CD that we're talking about. There's a Here, There, and Everywhere where the whole band stops, and there's just a beautiful piano solo played by Adam Birnbaum. So nobody's playing but the piano, but for the most part, the drummer's right there all the time, and a vital part of it. And I like that. It's that expression, personal expression, is real important.
So, at the end of the day, with Secret Message, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album?
The depth of the group. We really have a really excellent group. Every guy in the group, if you could Google every person involved with the group, from the person who did the recording, and every guy in the group is just a really excellent, deep, experienced musician. This really is just a good group. And the only way to make this group better is to fire me, probably. All of the guys are just really excellent, and just a privilege to play with, and an inspiration to play with.
So, you've been around for quite a while in the scene, and, as we kind of touched on with the pandemic, it changed so many things. And I think there was kids in school that didn't know where they were going to go, and then they've come back to it. So my question is this, from where you're at with your experience, how strong is jazz in America or even worldwide in 2025?
The jazz is very strong. The 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 music, the performance, what's out there is tremendously strong. The audience, of course, is different. That's really frustrating. I don't understand how in what was it, maybe in the 50s or early 50s, Dave Brubeck could go to a college campus and get everybody stirred up. And Dave Brubeck made his, got his start by just going and playing at college campuses, and all of these college students pursued the group. No singing, no singer, no words, just real serious music. And that was, in a way, I would think, a kind of a less sophisticated audience in the 50s than we should have now. But music without a lot of vocal stuff and a lot of, just real serious music doesn't seem to have that effect on a college crowd now. That's kind of a disappointment. But the quality of music now is excellent.
So let me ask you this. If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see any jazz show in the history of jazz, where would you go? Where would you love to go?
Shelley's Manhole. I have a special interest in the what was called the West Coast Jazz, and Shelley Mann had a nightclub, his own club, and a lot of those West Coast guys, Chet Baker, Dexter Gordon, Jerry Mulligan, all those guys used to frequent that. I'd like to spend some time there listening. They kind of have a similar attitude. I don't know if you're familiar, but there was a competition kind of between East Coast jazz and West Coast jazz, maybe starting in around the 40s and early 50s. Charlie Parker went from New York out to California and performed in California. And then he had anyway, that was kind of groundbreaking. Of course, Charlie Parker, was groundbreaking all the time, but that was a big deal. Then he went there and he had some of his personal problems came out there as well. But anyway, he created a stir, and the West Coast musicians did a lot of interesting things. There was a competition. The West Coast lost, the East Coast won, but there was at that time a lot of people were flocking to California, and the movie theaters, or not movies, the movie making companies were there, which brought a lot of good musicians there because they were doing a lot of recording background for movies and whatnot. So there was a real high quality musician there, and a little different attitude. They were into good writing and interesting charts, as opposed to the East Coast was more just blowing solos, which was great. Like I say, the East Coast really won, but that West Coast sound and the West Coast philosophy, they did more experimenting, trying to add different instruments, like adding strings maybe to jazz recordings, and just different experiments. Shelley Mann would do things with putting coins on the drums and playing drums and kind of recording the coins bouncing around. So it's kind of like a little more scientific, maybe intellectual kind of approach at times. And again, not to take anything, New York won big time, but there was a lot of interesting playing that was going on in that West Coast movement, and that kind of attracts me. I think a little bit like that. I really like the written chart, the written arrangement, as well as I like playing solos and all. But the guys in the West Coast were a little kind of more formally schooled, not better, but again, just kind of a more formally schooled, and it was a little different attitude. Even you could see it in the record covers. The East Coast jazz pictures on the covers, would show city urban life, gritty kinds of things on the covers, and on the covers of the West Coast, there'd be a girl in a bikini, or kind of a laid back or a beautiful scene. It was a little different attitude, and that interests me as well as, of course, the New York jazz. The guys like Miles Davis. Actually, Miles Davis played in the East Coast. Miles Davis did everything. He started with Charlie Parker, then the bebop, and then there was the birth of the cool, and he went over to the West Coast and he recorded some things with let's see who was on that. Probably Jerry Mulligan for sure. I'm not sure about Chet Baker, but so that birth of the cool, which he was part of, was more of an offshoot of the West Coast thing. And then, of course, Miles Davis, started every new movement in jazz, all the way up to rock and funk and stuff. So he was involved in everything. He was really something.
Yeah, I totally love those cats. That's my bread and butter right there. So let me ask you this, Joe. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, students, everyone that's around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Boy, that's a hard one.
Yeah, that's the therapy question.
Uh, well, I'm kind of a let's see, what would I'm just kind of a worker. I'm kind of a get up every day and do it. I made up my mind a long time ago. I used to be nervous maybe for a audition or something, and I kind of made up my mind and realized one day that whether I pass this audition and do well, or whether I don't, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up and play the drums again. So in a way, it doesn't matter how this audition goes, because it's not going to change anything. And I guess that's how I am. Nothing's going to change. I'm the same person. I get up every morning thinking about playing and finding my time to practice, and thinking about who else might like to write a chart for me, or who else might like to play in the band, or who could be featured, that kind of thing. And again, that's always on my mind. At the same time, I play a lot with other people where I just, go play a gig, and that's enjoyable too. But I think solid, or maybe stubborn might be the just general. I'm not the most talented guy in the world, but I just keep working on it.
Right on. So if anyone wants to catch you live with the Octet, or otherwise any of the good business in your world, or the best place to pick up the new album that would benefit you and the band the most, where would they go?
Well, I'd say keep an eye on our website. We got a lot of plans and a lot of things coming, I hope. Circle 9 Records would be the easiest place to purchase the album, which is also on my website. There's a link to it. And Circle 9, Doug Beavers played trombone on our album, a huge help. I wish I could mention every guy involved. It really, everyone's first rate. Doug particularly, Doug played trombone on the group, and he wrote one of the charts. He's really good in the studio. All honesty, he kind of took over in the studio. I mean, the drummer's in a little box. They separate us from the rest of the people, and really Doug took over and did a great job of kind of running things. And Doug is also the head of Circle 9 Records. So Circle 9 would be the place.
Okay. Beautiful. Joe, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and cats in Detroit, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Joe for his time and cool. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.